Patrick,
Yes.
we read your diary and we saw that you want nothing more than to show the world your upright bass skills.
I have none.
So we threw in a little dinero in the collection hat, and
Thank you
you're
to our
gonna do
Patreon
just that for
subscribers.
us today.
I'll give it a shot.
All right. Here's your bass. Have fun with it.
How far do you have to spread to even...
How do you think you're doing?
Terrible.
This is Deep Dive Divas. Each episode, myself and a guest diva listen to every blessed studio album by an artist of their choosing and share our findings with you. You can just lie down outside. Like so. All right.
I can't. What? I'm lost.
Our guest today is Patrick. Patrick was our guest on the Red Hot Chili Peppers episode. He is a musician, a father, a husband, but not to me. And you can and should hear his music using the links in this episode's show notes. That had to be it.
That's a mess.
Soul. Why did you choose them?
Because Red Hot Chili Peppers was horrible, and these are three of my favorite albums.
How were you first introduced?
To Soul Coffee?
Yeah.
My buddy Mike lent me the CD when...
Which CD? Ruby?
Ruby Vroom, when we were hanging out at a Denny's during a snowstorm,
How 90s of you.
waiting for my buddy Andrew to show up so we could eat E-bombs.
What are those?
Do tell.
MDMA, ecstasy.
Oh, Joe
Yes.
Grogan's fave.
Oh, is that his favorite?
He loves MDMA.
I thought he was a DMT guy.
He loves DMT. He loves MMA. He loves HDTV.
Wow, all the acronyms. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you remember how your E-bombs went that day?
Well, my buddy Andrew never showed up. It was
Oh.
a snowstorm. So,
Excuses.
so we split one of his, and then we walked home in the snow and got stopped by the police.
Uh-oh.
The whole band?
No, police officers and a paddy wagon.
Okay.
Who thought we were breaking curfew. We were only 18.
So you were adults.
We were adults,
The
but
curfew didn't apply to you.
you grew up in the same neighborhood I did.
Sure did.
The Upper Darby
I ate
police
at that
were
same Denny's.
the Upper Darby police were a bit of a pain in the ass.
Now, can I ask you a question?
Yes,
Do you agree with the sentiment, and I quote, fuck the police?
most of the time.
ACAB.
ACAB?
We're back to acronyms.
Do you believe that all cops are bees?
No, I don't.
Do you believe all cops eat at Arby's?
Not all of them, but probably a lot of them.
Do you think they should?
No, it's terribly unhealthy, and it gives you the meat sweats.
So we're talking Soul Coughing, obviously, a band from New York City. Yeehaw!
Pizza.
From the year 1990 onward.
That's a city that likes a deli sandwich.
Yes, and they never sleep because of it. Because of the
They're up with the
indigestion.
meat sweats.
I would classify them as a jazzy-ish sort of band. Their lead singer referred to them once as deep slacker jazz in an interview with the Washington Post in 1998.
As opposed to the other kind of slacker jazz.
Yes. Right.
The more shallow
It's deep
variety.
Yes. And there's lots of other genres and influences mixed in here, but jazz seems to always rise to the forefront here. They do end up cracking the Billboard 200 twice, so nothing to sneeze at, but I'm willing to bet a lot of people tuning in right now might not know this band.
That was another reason why I thought you should do them.
Because you're a hipster.
When I was first told we
forgive
were
me.
doing Soul Coughing, I thought we were doing Soul Asylum for about 6
Oh,
months.
I'm sorry to hear that. Runaway train.
Runaway train.
Runaway train, ever coming back.
I don't hate Soul Asylum, but I was a little surprised anyone would pick them. And then one day, our lovely host played me one of their songs, and I realized just how wrong I was. And I said, well, that sounds interesting.
Or
And
what if Runaway Train was buried deep in their discography? It's just the one song that sounds like that.
Yep.
So follow me back to the year 1970, if you will, when Michael Ross Doty is born in Fort Knox, Kentucky on June 10th. He's an Army brat. His dad is bopping him all over these great United States before eventually settling in as a military historian at none other than the westest of points.
Which is in the east. New York.
New York?
West Point's in New
so.
York.
Pretty
Yeah,
sure.
It's in New York.
upstate New York somewhere.
I want to be a part of it.
Pizza.
And Joe, you were listening to a little something about his upbringing. Anything you'd like to share?
Well, I believe that you might have read his book, The Book of Drugs.
Yes, a
Is
pretentious
that correct?
title. Yes.
It's a pretty pretentious title. Did he write about his grandfather in there?
I don't recall him mentioning his grandfather.
I just listened to his interview with Marin, episode 311.
Whoa, amber is the color of your energy.
So I had to bring $3 to get behind that paywall.
Oh,
It was a blast from the past. I've been a listener for a long time. Fell off
First
in
time caller,
recent years. And Mike told some stories about his grandfather, who
Doty.
was his grandfather. I don't
Grandpa
remember the guy's
Doty.
name. Grandpa Doty. One of those stories was that growing up in his generation, there wasn't really a problem with going out to the bar late at night if you had a horse, because you could just climb on the horse and the horse could take you home.
I do remember that story, yeah.
I found that fascinating.
do you recall anything from his upbringing?
The West Point thing's what screws with me. Because I think there's a conspiracy to be built out of that, the whole West Point connection. I don't, just because, his father was, high-ranking West Point teacher. Then you got Jim Morrison. His father taught at West Point as well, taught about, military tactics or something.
Yeah.
But he was also involved in the Gulf of Tonkin incident.
Is that right?
And raised to the level of admiral afterwards.
Anyone doesn't remember?
That's
it's,
Jim Morrison.
Jim Morrison's dad.
The Vietnam War, when 2 or 3 supposedly Vietnamese destroyers seemed to be stalking a U.S. ship, and the U.S. got clearance to just open fire on them, and a lot of civilians died.
Or if you go deep enough into YouTube, it was aliens.
Sure.
There's UFOs involved.
They're as with everything.
Well, they're always the solution.
Absolutely. They're always there.
Yep.
Just making, monitoring.
Yeah.
So if you've got any other West Point connections, because the last one is Maynard James Keenan,
From
who dropped
Tool.
out just before he had to sign his military contract and then started Tool.
He knows the pieces fit.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
That's actually where the concept of Tool comes from. Tool to them in the military,
What they
Tool
all-
is like, you're all a tool. You're a douche, but you're a tool.
Right. You're
Yeah.
a tool. Huh.
Yeah, so it tells you what they think of their fans.
No kidding.
Yeah.
With T-shirts with Tool on it. Mm-hmm. I've heard him say as much on Mark Maron in an early episode as well.
Oh, yeah?
He did get a kick out of referring to their fans as tools.
Yep.
Speaking of people who have massive disdain for their fans, Michael Doty moves to New York City to attend the New School to become a poet. The New School is kind of just like a liberal arts sort of institution where if you want to go into any sort of, lefty, libtard sort of discipline, you could do worse.
Like singing.
How many times did you run into the fact that he hung out with Ani DeFranco?
A few times.
Yeah?
At the New School as well, right?
The Joyful Girl.
It's a good album.
I love that song.
So Mike is working as the doorman of an institution in New York City called the Knitting Factory, which is a place where if you want to go see some avant-garde, cool, weird music, that's where you're going to go. And Mike will be your doorman, and he's going to rap while he's working and checking you in and patting you down and just kind of acting like a crazy person.
Yeah.
Imagine being patted down, and then imagine someone rapping while doing that. And there's a bunch of random artists who are kind of playing and will hop on each other's sets and stuff there. And eventually, the 4 members of this band that will be known as Soul Coughing converge here. Those 4 gentlemen are the aforementioned Mike Doty on vocals and sometimes guitar. Depending on if Pat would not deem what he does as playing guitar, but
Well, even he calls it gangadank, which is accurate.
Mark Degley Anthony on keys.
Oh, you're going to name them. He doesn't.
The 88 keys.
No.
You got your
The
A,
members of the band.
You got your
After
B.
Mike, it goes
There's
the
Mike
bass
and
player,
the rest.
the sample player,
Yes.
and the drummer.
Yeah. So Mark also is. I'm glad you brought that up. A sampler. Much like if you go to TGI Fridays and want to try everything. No, didn't land for you. Okay.
I like it.
All right. Then we have Sebastian Steinberg on the usually upright bass, and Jerusalem-born Yuval Gabe on the drums.
What up, G?
And they, in various iterations, will perform together at the Knitting Factory, including on John Zorn's Cobra Live at the Knitting Factory record, which came out in 1995. So these guys were aware of each other and each other's orbits before they ultimately decide to become a band in 1993. And within a year of them deciding to play together, they are signed to Slash Records, which is an offshoot of Warner Brothers.
I don't know anything about Slash Records, but it's a pretty big deal for a band that's made up of a guy that works at the Knitting Factory and some musicians that hang out around there. To get on Warner Brothers, that's a pretty big deal.
Could be the West Point connection.
Could be.
Now, their first record comes out in 1994, and it is entitled Ruby Vroom, as in VROOM. And Ruby as in Don't Take Your Love to Town.
Sure.
The album was named after the daughter of their producer. I guess it's Chad Blake, TCHAD.
Yeah, I think it's Chad.
Shod.
That's bad. Yeah, I get that T out of there, man. Chad Blake's friend, Mitchell Froome, who also would occasionally help serve as producer in here. Mitchell Froome and his wife just had a daughter who was named Ruby Froome, but people said it wrong, and that's where they got the name from. They cut the album at Sunset Sound Factory out Hollywood Way.
Is that the famous studio that Fleetwood Mac recorded at and all? And
That's just rumors.
the
This album's bananas. Let's start off with talking about the track Janine.
That makes me so nervous.
Start.
Lemon tree is so pretty. The lemon blossom so sweet. But the fruit of the poor lemon is in
one of my favorite tracks on that album.
So Janine, do you know the story behind this?
Some drunk crazy woman left a voicemail.
So that drunk crazy woman is Mike's ex-girlfriend,
Oh.
Rachel Benbow Murdy. That sounds made up. She's in witness protection for sure. She left this voicemail a year before Ruby came out. She didn't leave it on her own volition. Mike asked her to do this. He gave her money to go to a payphone in New York City to sing an old folk song called Lemon Tree onto his answering machine. He then brings the entire answering machine into the recording session, and they play it back, and that's what we're hearing. So he held on to this for a while. Weird man. Very strange man. Sebastian and Mike record the rest of the track at the Knitting Factory, where they, were kind of cutting their teeth as performers before the doors opened that night.
It's interesting that message goes on for the entire song.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
at the beginning, it's like, oh, it's a cool sample. And then at the end, you realize it's completely different. In the middle, it's just background noise. But, like, to realize she's singing and talking
doing the
through the
damn
whole
thing,
damn
yeah.
thing. It's not a loop.
Yep.
And they use a lot of loops.
Right. So during the recording process of this record, they utilize a bunch of different children's toys and instruments on this record, some of which were Ruby Froome's toys,
Aw.
which is very cute. Joe, you had a little bit about the song Down to This.
Oh, sure. While listening to the song "Down to This," which I believe to be about being mobbed up on by a group of Lilliputians. Does that resonate for you?
No, it doesn't.
You get the arms and I'll get the legs.
That, from what I understand, was the story of him as a bouncer. You get the ankles and I'll get the wrists.
Sure,
of actually having
sure.
to pick someone up and throw them out physically.
That makes way
I
more
liked
sense.
the Lilliputians concept,
Well,
though.
so I'm imagining these Lilliputians already, and then he mentions Ratatouille.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, okay, we got these Lilliputians, and we've got Ratatouille. I think that this song predicts the movie Ratatouille.
The ankles and I'll get the wrists. You get the ankles and I'll get the wrists. You get the ankles and I'll get the wrists. You come down to this sound. Nerves are up and the eyes all screwy. A blood like a pan full of boiling ratatouille.
This is an opportune moment to bring up the fact that I usually ask guests I give them the option to keep notes in a spreadsheet. And most people will write things like, I like this song, or this song was no good. Patrick, you decided instead to write a haiku for literally every, not some, not most, every single track across all three of Soul Coughing's albums.
I did.
Explain that thought process.
Well, I have listened to all three of these albums thousands of times.
Okay.
I figured I should listen to them one last time, specifically in order to give you my thoughts. And I wanted to make it interesting. So I challenged myself to come up with a little blurb about each one. And in order to make it the kind of pretentious that only like a sophomore dropout from philosophy in college would do, I did this because I felt like it was a good homage to
Boy,
Mike.
did you deliver. 'Cause so many of these songs are just like crazy word salad, and it was really lovely to be able to go to your haiku.
My own crazy
and
word
kinda-
salad?
Yeah, to summarize it, and I think you did
Find a
so
theme.
in a much more concise way. Basically, what I'm saying is if you want to assassinate Mike Doty and take over for him and shave your head and then wear big hipster glasses, we'll help out.
I don't think I have his flow. And honestly,
You have his hustle?
ironically, I don't think I play his guitar as well as he does either.
I think he got pretty good at some point.
At some point in his later,
by his 18th solo
his
album.
post
Yeah.
soul coughing stuff.
I was
gets
enjoying
better.
some of his solo material. There's some unexpected guitar soloing.
right, shocking.
Yeah, he's pretty good at it. He
Yeah.
never really did it back in
For
the
a
day.
guy that it really sounds like they spliced together his best riff over and over again
Mm-hmm.
during each recording. Yeah, he got better.
Yeah.
Now, soul coughing, this is a trend that will persist through all three of their records. They sample a lot of stuff on on their albums. Again, Mark Antony I love that that's his name. That's like kind of one of his main jobs in the band is just sampling things. So if we
Especially in the first.
Yes.
Yeah,
If we
first
take the
movie.
track, you also have the Andrews Sisters, Howlin' Wolf, Toots and the Maytals are all on the track Down to This. So they really do.
Right. Could you read us the haiku that you wrote for, say, Down to This?
Out to the street, trash. Marching or stumbling, just go. Lemmings, second line. So instead of Lilliputians, I was imagining lemmings, I guess, at the time.
Lemons.
Lemons. Lemmings.
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 Those are a diminutive being.
Right?
Small little guy.
Yeah.
Would you do my yummy song,
What's that?
Screenwriter Blues?
And the radio is on, and the radio man is speaking, and the radio man says women were a curse. So men built Paramount Studios, and men built Columbia Studios, and men built Los Angeles. It is 5 a.m., and you are listening to Los Angeles. It is 5 a.m. and you are listening to Los Angeles.
Take that, Mike Myers. Art Bell is writing Cohen flicks, but no one's buying.
I was able to determine which one that was.
I think that one's pretty clear, right? I mean,
Yeah.
doesn't Screenwriters Blues just remind you of So I Married an Axe Murderer?
Sure. And you said Art Bell. That's the Coast to Coast AM
Yes, sir.
classic era host.
Exactly.
I was glad to see that reference. Big Coast to Coast AM fan. Although I'm more of a George Norrie.
Really?
Well, this is what
You
I grew
prefer
up
Norrie?
with. I just,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
only things I've heard from Bell were all on like YouTube.
Okay. See, I fell asleep to Art Bell for years before George Norrie took over.
I think when you listen to Soul Coughing, one of the first things that I noticed was that upright bass, baby. I mean,
Yes.
it is front and center. It's beautiful. Sebastian just rips that thing like a mother.
You would think it was samples
Yeah.
if you had
Yeah.
to guess. Just put
It's
it in
really well
context.
recorded. Upright bass is not easy to record.
No.
They really do put me in this like headspace, kind of unlike anything else that I've heard. They're an exceptionally unique band, I think. Even when I don't like songs by them, I'm always interested in it, you know?
You can't go wrong sampling seagulls.
That's true. My yummy song is True Dreams of Wichita. This was probably the first song I ever heard by them, and it was probably because of you, Patrick.
That is my second favorite musical drop of all time.
True dreams of Wichita. We're punching. I got a bed. I got too much things on bounce on my head. I gotta put 'em up. I gotta burn 'em uptown. I got to go uptown. I got a thing. I got a little bit push. Gotta stand on the corner and bellow for mush. I got a bomb. I got a baby bomb. Gotta stand on the corner and bellow for my friend Tom. I got a thing. I got a thing. I got a thing. A team. I got a bum. That's not true dreams. True dreams. True dreams.
There's a fucking squeal, like a tinnitus death sigh. Then there's that break. Sheet.
Great cover.
The physical
yeah, the
cover
art's
of
good.
record,
Yeah, art's very good.
What, a lady with a fishbowl or astronaut helmet?
Yeah, it looks right out of a silent era film.
Yeah. Were you exposed to Soul Coughing as these records came out?
No. Honestly, let's see. Ruby Vroom, that would have been
94.
So it came out in 94. I don't think I heard it until 98.
Wow, okay.
I knew Irresistible Bliss because Super Bomb Bomb was a hit of sorts.
It was around. It was in the ether.
But like, I kind of forgot about them.
Success follows the release of this record when Is Chicago Is Not Chicago appears on the Tommy Boy soundtrack with the
Really?
great Chris Farley. Yes.
A man drives a plane into the Chrysler building. Elmira is in the room. It's Chicago. It's not Chicago. It's Chicago. It's not Chicago.
Furthermore, they appear on the Songs in the Key of X, music from and inspired by the X-Files record. Unmarked Helicopters.
Unmarked
is the song that's
Helicopters,
on there.
yep.
They are in the company of Nick Cave, Sheryl Crow, Danzig, Frank Black of the Pixies, and Elvis Costello on that record.
It's really a good record.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's not.
Never mind. Disregard.
I didn't enjoy it. It's all
Did you enjoy
overproduced.
the X-Files?
I watched the show and I saw the movie. I wouldn't say I was a huge fan of the X-Files.
Did you enjoy the Sex Files, the pornographic parody?
I've never seen that.
Well, that's all about
Probably
change
would.
today, son.
Oh, we're watching porn, aren't we?
Why should this episode be any different? The band was supposed to work with Chad Blake again on their next record, but a member of his family was killed in a terrible, tragic car crash, and he was grieving that and not really in the mood to hang out with these four miserable guys. So instead, they hire David Kahn, who you might know as the producer of First Impressions of Earth by The Strokes, Sublime by Sublime, and Stevie Nicks' Trouble in Shangri-La. Now, the second effort was recorded at Power Station in Manhattan, and Tony Bon Jovi had it built. He is
Bon Jovi?
John Bon
John
Jovi's
Bon Jovi.
cousin. Yes.
Really?
They recorded the entire album in 11 days, and Mike is pumped about this record. He thinks they did a real good job with this one, and it is released, Irresistible Bliss, they call it, on September 29th, 1996. Super Bon Bon is in the long-term parking episode of The Sopranos, as well as an episode of The Blacklist, and that Michael Jordan joint, The Last Dance.
Oh, not Space Jam?
Yeah.
Shining, to rise, to rise, to rise. Facts you must cut clean. You gotta take the elevator to the mezzanine shop. Change in a song, super bon bon, super bon bon, super bon bon. Two facts you must cut clean. You gotta take the elevator to the mezzanine shop. Change in a song, super bon bon, super bon bon, super bon bon.
In 2006, Ford chose the track Disseminated for an ad for the Ford Transit, which is funny because there is a line in Disseminated that goes, quote, "The goat chewed up once a tin can. The goat shat out was a Ford sedan."
I like an apple. I like a square clutch. I like a funny car. I like a monster truck.
So I don't know if that was just someone kind of like flipping the bird to their own company or what the deal was, but yeah, I knew absolutely nothing on this album. On Ruby Vroom, there were a couple songs I was familiar with ahead of time. Irresistible Bliss, didn't know a single one.
What'd you think of it?
I enjoyed it. Soft Serve I thought was really good. 4 out of 5 is my yuck icky track.
Really?
I find it to be exceptionally repetitive and just like kind of grating.
I love when he
I'm
does
like,
math.
Got it.
4 and 5, therefore 9. 9 and 9, therefore 18. 18 and 18, therefore 36. 4 and 5, therefore 9. Sometimes I was drifting on a coffee buzz.
Ooh, counting. Vag arithmetic is tight. Google lyrics suck.
Was that a reaction to having Googled the lyrics?
I did, in fact, Google the
Was there?
lyrics.
Did you suspect there was some sort of a mistake?
I do, but I'd have to look it up to see what it was at this point. Some of these songs run a little long. That's why I got my lowest rating by a
Also,
solid...
their shortest record.
Almost 0.0812. Yeah, I don't think you rated anything on by this band below a 9.5.
Oh no, it's below 9.5. Or no, it's 9.9. It's 9 and it's a 9.942.
Okay.
So 9.9.5.
So basically 9.5.
The way I saw it, I was rating gymnasts at the top of their game, and I just had to knock off fractions of a point. And this one, had the most mistakes.
Sure. Again, I agree with you. It's my least favorite record as well.
I found the aggression of it kind of surprising. The first record, the aggression is all sort of couched in sort of
Jazz.
jazzy stoner
Deep
sound.
Slacker jazz.
Yeah, it's very slacker. Like, there's not a lot of energy. This record, there was yelling.
Like paint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super Bonbon. There's a lot of yelling on this record, a lot of growling.
So the band plays on the record entitled Offbeat, a Red Hot Sound Trip, which raised money to combat AIDS, which is very nice. Doty pitches Warner Brothers a solo acoustic album entitled Skittish, and they immediately say, no, we want nothing to do with this. And that is going to really sour things for Mike. He never really forgives them for that. It should also be noted that in 1996, Yuval plays drums on Token Back to Brooklyn by They Might Be Giants.
That's pretty cool.
That was a shock to me. The following year, in 1997, their song The Bug appears in the Batman and Robin soundtrack.
I'm not even familiar with the song The Bug.
Slip it through the wrong plug, slap the rotor to the beat, y'all stitching to the pinprick, got you down into the flat line, clap the matter, it's a drop, pow, revving it up into the stomp box, sucker-fied ass man, tripping in his own dribble, tripling the white man's outlay, capital is up now, screening on a fat tomato, it's a scream girl, lips are bigger than a car, I know the bug is why you're running down into the hole, green nigga, you come and snatch my soul, I know the bug is why you're running down into the hole, green nigga, you come and snatch my soul, I know the bug is why you're running down into the hole, green nigga, you come and snatch my soul.
Look that up.
Batman and Robin. That's the one where
Nipples.
it's George Clooney with the rubber
The
nipples.
real bad nips. Did you know Seal's Kiss from a Rose came out way before that movie? And no
Yeah.
one gave a shit. And then they're like, put it on the Batman soundtrack. And now everyone's all about it. The band teams up with British DJ Ronnie Size to record a song entitled A Plane Scraped Its Belly on a Sooty Yellow Moon for the Spawn soundtrack, which is your...
Yuck, icky. Everything. The whole soundtrack.
Yeah.
regard-
You didn't like the
especially that
movie,
one.
right? But
I
you,
didn't like the movie either.
but you love the comics.
The comics were good.
And the toys.
The toys were
I remember
great.
playing with your toys.
Toys are spectacular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when they're not appearing on bad movie soundtracks, they are hard at work recording their third record, entitled El Oso, which in Spanish translates to The Oso.
bear.
Well, which one is it?
We'll just have to agree to disagree. So I think that this album is a marked departure from the sound of the previous two. And I believe part of that is the band was touring with drum and bass artists such as DJ Crust and DJ Die before this.
They sound like fun guys.
Crust with a K.
How does he spell die?
I like it, Die. My darling.
D-I-E?
Yeah. And this, along with optical producing the record, I think heavily influences the sound, where there is a lot more drum and bass sort of influence on it. It's much faster and breakbeat sort of stuff.
There was a lot of ecstasy everywhere in 1998. And
Yeah, because everyone's so
1999.
happy. You mean there was a lot of joy?
Yes.
Goodwill toward men.
Yes, chemically induced joy.
Yes.
And-
Bill Clinton was giving it out. Boy,
that-
was he ever.
Man, you're right. He was cool.
He was cool. He was
Shooting
all right.
ecstasy out of his saxophone. So Jim Woodring did the artwork for this. Do you guys know Frank, the rabbit, the cartoon rabbit?
It rings
I
a
was
bell.
like vaguely aware of this. You might know it if you saw
Yeah,
it.
please.
Is Frank the cheeky bunny that everybody had on their t-shirt?
Yeah.
It would be like, I'm not a bitch, I'm stupid.
See,
That's not what they were
I
like.
just keep thinking of that rat and with the rat with the motorcycle,
they actually
with
say?
the hot rods. What was that guy?
That's not what I was
No,
thinking
that doesn't
of.
look familiar to me at all.
Okay, well, it's the same guy.
Okay.
You'll be shocked to know.
I mean, it does look like an anthropomorphic version
Yeah.
of the cover of the album.
There is some mainstream success. The previous records don't really do well in terms of the charts. Their song Circles changes that. It goes all the way up to number 8 on the Billboard Alternative Songs charts. It also appears in a self-referential Cartoon Network commercial, which is probably where I heard them next after hearing True Dreams of Wichita, in which they make fun of their cartoons for always having the same backgrounds and essentially going around in circles. Walk around in circles, walk around.
I remember that cartoon vividly.
Yeah.
I was a fan.
I don't need to walk around in circles, walk around in circles, walk around in circles, walk around in. Don't need to walk around in circles, walk around in circles, walk around in circles, walk around in. When the ghost sleep.
This was like one of your daughter's biggest songs, right?
My
They
daughters
love
loved this
Circles.
entire album,
Okay.
which, was kind of ironic.
It is my
considering
favorite record.
experiences.
It is my favorite of the three. And Joe's least favorite, correct?
Yeah,
Really?
I still liked it, but I could hear I found all of it was very repetitive. Every song would have like a one-word phrase as a hook that would just repeat and repeat and repeat, and it didn't seem like they were in a room working together. It seemed like something that was built by a
They weren't.
producer after the fact.
From
It
what
didn't-
I understand
wasn't
from
very
his
lively.
from what I understand from his memoir, man, he was in Pensacola
Yeah.
and hanging at some dude's house,
We should all be so lucky.
possibly doing heroin, maybe getting off the heroin. I couldn't even keep track of. He bounced around in the memoir a lot as to like when he was trying to sober up. I mean, the whole second half of the book is pretty much a commercial for 12 Steps. But I think he was in Florida, and the rest of the band was maybe up in New York, and
At West Point, shining their shoes. And
I think in the city with all the pizza and the Cowboys,
I think that you could look at Irresistible Bliss almost like as a sequel to Ruby Vroom. This to me sounds like a different band. Like it's totally different in terms of inspiration. The only thing really consistent is Doty's bad shit crazy lyrics.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I think even his delivery is a little different on this one. It seems like he's trying a little harder.
Singing a little bit more. Yeah. There's almost a
Maybe
melody.
6 notes instead of 4.
The upright bass has switched to an electric bass.
Yeah.
Which I actually
For most
knock
of
it
the
for.
record.
I miss it.
Really?
I miss it.
I
It does
do
come
too.
back
I mean-
on some tracks, but you have songs like Rolling where there's no bass in it for like half of it, and then it comes in, it's electric. So you sold out, Sebastian. Would you be so kind as to read us your haiku for Maybe I'll Come Down?
Bass so transcendent that he gets away with dumbs. Why hold out both guns?
Dum 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 ba did da dum dum ba did da dum 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 ba did da dum. I need time to scrounge the rent. I need time to contemplate the accident. I got to drag my ass to now. How did I come to stop here? Well, I knew the gas was.
And then the dude hands 2 guns to him for some reason.
It rhymes with dumb, that's why. So this was a dynamic record for you, Patrick.
Yes.
Because it has your high point and your low point. Could you go through these? Well, it has your high point on it.
Yes.
But, yeah.
Well, no, it's got my low point on it too, because actually,
Yeah.
worst album I actually put the Spawn soundtrack. My Yuck Icky's actually Houston.
She's gone to Houston. Feel like I'm floating in a warm sea. And if she finds out when she comes back, I know that she will leave me.
What do you dislike about Houston?
It's just so disgustingly sad. I mean, the lows of a desperate junkie.
Right.
It depresses me. on an
I
album
think
that
Pensacola is very much the same way too.
yeah, but Pensacola's got more of a melancholy to it.
Yeah.
Whereas Houston's just, I hate the fact that I want to get high.
Right.
And that's
Right.
it. And the thing is, this particular album really connects to the period in my life when I was really enjoying getting high.
Mm-hmm.
So to hit that track is just to be reminded of all the downsides at a time when I didn't want to be reminded of the downsides.
Yeah.
But I wasn't doing heroin because
So
I'm
do you
not a
feel
moron.
personally attacked? Okay, Mike Doty makes fun of his listeners. You can't make fun of ours. Our Patreon subscription comes with free samples of heroin.
Yeah.
Wow, you gotta hook them whatever way you can, I guess. But yeah, it is my favorite album. But like I said, that's because of the memories I have tied to it. These haikus I wrote, these ones are a whole lot more personal than the other ones. The other ones are a lot of gibberish,
Right.
whereas these ones actually have some personal stories in them.
Yeah, it sounded like you were writing some memories. Would you
I
mind
was
sharing one or two with us?
Ooh. Driving home from space, she looked up with big brown does. 2 + 1 is once. Space was a club in Philly
Oh.
in the late 90s, a
Okay.
rave club. And I met a long-term girlfriend there, but I was friendly with her and one of her friends at the
Got
time,
it.
including in the club that night,
Oh, wow.
and was hit with an ultimatum.
Oh.
I could have both once or one permanently.
Wow.
And I chose the one permanently. And it lasted a couple years. I think I made the right choice.
And your favorite soul coughing song?
Yes.
My-
My yummy yummy song is St. Louise's Listening.
Flashed out the thought before it just became insistent. But I rubbed it out along the spot where it were missing. She's widely known, the only mackerel that pays her taxes. I got to box her for the money. Set him on end.
Could you
Oh,
share your
why?
haiku?
I could share my haiku. Macaro's a pimp. Don't know what milk he's drinking. Swedish word salad.
This is a good one. This is a really good one. It's kind of nauseating, but it's good.
Could you tell us what you mean by that?
Well,
I think it explains itself.
It's very it's
kinda,
pretty clear.
I mean, but the lyrics to that song, they're pretty much all references to the lyrics to the song. But macaro, I never knew what that meant, so I Googled it in order to write this.
And he was a pimp.
Macaro is French for pimp.
God,
Yes.
Emmanuel Macaron.
You know.
Possibly. And yeah, the rest of it's just about that line about he's like milk to you, half Swedish and half Asian.
Wild.
I don't know what that.
don't know
I
what that
love
means
that line. It's beautiful, but I have no idea what it means. It's possibly the best turn of phrase Dowdy has in all of his insane lyrics, and he's got some good ones.
Now, in the year 2000 of our Lord and Savior, they break up.
Travs.
They're on a break!
Each episode, we like to highlight the up-and-coming work of a discography developing diva. Today, that is Fish in Tank robbing banks. Fish in Tank robbing banks is, quote, a proud mother of 60-something squishmallows and 7 stitches, and that's all you need to know, unquote. It is now time to get running with the devil with Fish in Tank robbing banks and their track, My Feminist Anthem for the Children.
Hi. We good? No. Rar. I can bark, you can bark, we can bark. I'm a pretty princess who can bark. You're a pretty princess who can bark. Who can bark? I can bark, we can bark. Everyone can bark. Bark, bark. Pretty princess who can bark. I can bark, we can bark. Everyone can bark. Bark, bark. Pretty princess, we are pretty princess. princesses who can fart. We are pretty princesses who can fart. Hi. I can fart. You can fart. We can fart. I'm a pretty princess who can fart. You're a pretty princess who can fart. We can fart. I can fart. You can fart. I can fart. Pretty princess. I can fart. I'm a pretty princess who can fart. I can fart. Who can fart? I can fart. What are you two pretty princess who can fart? Princess who can fart. I can fart. About a pretty princess. I'm a pretty princess. You're a pretty princess. Not like anyone else. I'm a pretty princess who can fart. Who can fart? Who can fart? I can fart. We can fart. Everyone can fart. 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 Pretty princess. How you doing? I'm a pretty princess. We can fart. Hi. I've been blabbering to myself. Who can fart? Who can fart? I can fart. We can fart. Everyone can fart. 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 Pretty princess who can fart. I can fart. We can fart. Everyone can fart. 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 Pretty princess.
To hear more from Fish and Tank robbing banks, and who wouldn't want to, and to follow us online, check out the links in this episode's show notes.
Mike takes off on his solo career, which features him driving, by some reports, over 9,000 miles across the country, strung out on pills, booze, and heroin, playing concerts and selling copies of Skittish, that record that Warner Brothers didn't want. Like after the show, he
Out
was
of his
kind
trunk?
Yeah, accost people and ask them to buy it.
And that's when he would yell at Soul Coughing fans and say, fuck you.
That's when he
don't listen
decided
to my
he hated
music.
them, I
He
think.
estimates he moved 20,000 copies of the record in this way, which is insane.
Yeah.
Wild.
He
I
told-
would be happy selling 20 of anything in that manner.
Absolutely. He told Mark Maron that he was making way more money doing that than he was in soul coughing.
Are we sure he wasn't actually handing out CDs with bindles of
could be.
heroin
Could be.
attached to them?
I mean, wouldn't be the first.
Mark Antony goes on to compose a bunch of different film scores. Their greatest hits come out in 2002, Lust in Phase.
It's a good collection.
It's got a few B-sides on it.
Got a great, what is it, Hamlet
Yeah.
quote
Yeah.
in Buddha Rhubarb Butter, which just
It's a good title.
delightful.
Mike continues touring without a label for several years until he plays at the Bonnaroo Music Festival down in Manchester, Tennessee, where he hangs out with everybody's favorite frat boy, Dave Matthews.
I bet they'd get along swimmingly.
They seem to. They had actually toured together twice with Soul Coughing.
Is that where he learned to play guitar?
Could be.
If
You could do
only.
worse. Yeah. Wild to think that Soul Coughing opened for DMB. So Mike, while he's backstage with Dave Matthews, he pawns a CD with a bunch of demos for a new record off on him, which were recorded in Minneapolis with Dan Wilson. You might not think you know Dan Wilson. You know Dan Wilson.
Oh, yeah.
As the lead singer of Semisonic, Closing Time.
Yeah.
Also the author of songs to Adele, The Chicks, as well as jingles like the Kit Kat Bar theme song.
Really?
Yeah. So he's working with Dodie up in Minneapolis way, and Dave Matthews really likes this record. The rough cuts from it. Mike's not the only one who's getting up to creative shenanigans at this time. Sebastian Steinberg will play bass for William Shatner's second record entitled Has Been.
Was
He
that the
also-
one produced with Ben Folds?
Yes. He also joins a band called UV Ray with the drummer Yuval Gabay.
Okay.
So they're back together. The rhythm section's back together, baby. So in 2005, Dave Matthews releases this record and kind of helps it get finished on his ATO. It is called Haughty Melodic. Tracks from this will get played on shows like Veronica Mars and Grey's Anatomy, pretty big shows at the time. And Dodie also plays live on Letterman, songs from this record. Since then, Mike Dodie has put out a total of 16 solo studio records, not counting his career as Soul Coughing.
Yeah.
16.
I was listening to some of Haughty Melodic today, and it's really fun, sort of Americana. It doesn't really have anything to do with soul coughing, but you can absolutely hear his voice as a songwriter. And there's still a lot of very repeating one-word phrases as a chorus, and but yeah, to something we were discussing earlier. Obviously, a much better guitar player than he was back in those days. There's a lot of background singing and keyboards, and it's really strummy sing-along music.
I think he got tired of the Slacker label.
Yeah.
I think it was like, I do care. So why am I pretending like I don't?
Yeah, it wasn't cool anymore.
And when you don't have the drugs to help you not care.
Being a slacker stopped being cool, like, what, 15 years ago? 20 years ago?
It's coming back.
He knew it.
Praise Bob.
Praise Bob.
J.R. Bob Dobbs, baby. Bring back the slack.
As if I am looking at the world from the bottom of a well, and I feel as if I am looking at the world from the bottom of a well. Lonely, and the only way to beat it is to bat it down, and the only way to beat it is to bat it down, and the only way to beat it is to bat it down. Beat it lonely, and the only way to beat it is to
So, kind of to bring this all full circle, Sebastian Steinberg then plays bass with the Chicks.
Formerly Dixie?
Yes.
At the time, Dixie.
Who Mike was, working with their producer, as well as Katie Lang and Vanessa Carlton. So, Sebastian Steinberg, I think, kind of has the most prestigious career out of the rest of the band.
Yeah, no kidding. Katie Lang.
Mark Antony will go on to score the soundtrack for the documentary Roman Polanski, Wanted and Desired. Didn't age well. A few years later, he will take on Werner Herzog's Into the Abyss. And he's also in the backing band on a tour with David Byrne and Brian Eno.
Really?
The
do worse.
pretentiousness.
No kidding.
Just leeching
That's a
off the
lot of
page.
noise.
Yeah. 2009, you can actually see Sebastian playing the bass in a band that Adam Sandler hires to play with him in the cinematic masterpiece Funny People.
Really?
Yeah, he's in that movie. He has an IMDb credit.
Supporting Adam Sandler on lead vocal. Wow.
Just a few years later, in 2012, when the world didn't end, Doty puts out
Yes,
his
it did.
first... Okay, well, in the ulterior timeline, Doty puts out his memoir, which you read.
I did.
The Book of Drugs.
Such a stupid name.
2012 is also when Sebastian begins working as a session musician for Fiona
The
Apple.
idler wheel is longer than the tallest skyscraper in all of the underground
Is this part of When the
cafe. She did the same thing with the idler wheel. I don't actually know it, but
Amen.
it has a very long title that people often abbreviate.
I haven't listened
the
to that
idler
album.
wheel. ...
And then they kind of, to this day, it seems, are still playing together. Like, he's her bassist in the studio, out on tour.
So did he?
Maybe if they're doing
Is he on our
cheerleading
most
stuff?
recent one?
Yeah.
Fetch the Bolt Cutters.
Mhm.
That's a
Yeah.
good album.
That is a good album.
And it's got
She's
some good
a-
bass on it, actually.
Yeah, so does Idler Wheel.
Yeah.
Hot Butter.
Did you
is
know she is a court
very cool.
watcher?
A what now?
That is what she does in her free time. She goes to, like, just the dregs of the universe court cases.
Like night
and
court?
sits there just to be an observer, to make sure that, like, they're
Justices.
not writing people off and stuff, to, like, make sure they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Really?
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Is that how she keeps herself off the streets?
Yeah, I guess so.
Shamika said I had potential. Shamika said I had potential. Hurricane Gloria in Excelsis Dale. That's my bird and my tree. My dog and my man and my music is my holy trinity. Hurricane Gloria in Excelsis Dale. That's my bird and my tree.
In 2014, Mike writes an opera entitled Revelation, which is based on the Bible book of the same name. Did you ever see it? Or hear it?
Are you saying opera?
Yeah, it's a rock opera entitled Revelation.
No.
Yeah, man.
I'm missing out.
2017, the Swedish record label Whoa Dad buys their catalog. So the Swedes, well, I mean, through Spotify own everyone, but now they explicitly own Soul
That's
Coughing.
how they.
Yep.
That's their angle.
And finally, to conclude the last bit of Soul Coughing news, Mike writes another book in 2020 that you read half of.
I listened to half of it.
Entitled I Die Each Time I Hear the Sound, a memoir, which is all about music that he likes.
The opening chapter, he talks about that one album, the Ghosts of Ruby Vroom, and how he initially thought he wanted to try and reconcile with the guys from Soul Coughing and get it done, but he says
No.
it just couldn't happen. Like, just no way.
Yeah.
But it was refreshing to hear him say soul coughing out loud immediately, because
That he would even want to.
in the previous memoir, he literally says my old band and the drummer and the bass player until after he complains about soul coughing fans. Then he admits the fact that he was in soul coughing.
Wow.
Patrick, why should people listen to Soul Coughing?
Because it's fun-ass music and it's unique. And because it's better than a lot of things from the late 90s that people still listen to.
Like Kiss from a Rose.
Like Kiss from a Rose.
Da 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 da.